You know that feeling, right? You set a big goal.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, I'm going to finally get fit, or I'll dedicate an hour every day to learning that skill.
Oh, yeah.
For a little while, you're totally fired up. The motivation is high. You feel like you can conquer the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow you just don't. The initial energy fades, life gets in the way, and that exciting goal starts to collect dust.
It's the universal challenge, isn't it? Bridging that gap between the intention and the actual, doing it consistently.
It absolutely is. And that's precisely what we're diving into today. Cracking the code of self-discipline. Why is it the quiet, often unglamorous, but utterly essential engine that powers you towards any meaningful goal you set?
Because motivation, well, as powerful as it feels at the start, it's ultimately unreliable. It comes and goes.
Right.
Discipline is what provides that steady force when that initial excitement inevitably cools off.
Exactly. And to really understand how to cultivate this resilience, we've been exploring some fascinating material. We dug into a transcript from an English learning show, which, okay, at first glance, might seem specific to mastering a language.
Sure, language learning.
But what's remarkable is how the core principles discussed in that transcript about building consistent study habits apply universally to your goals, whatever they are: fitness, creativity, business, anything.
It's a perfect example, really. Focusing on practical challenges in one area can reveal these fundamental truths about human behavior that just work everywhere.
Yeah.
The struggle to stick with something hard, even when you know it's good for you, well, that's not just about English, is it?
It really isn't. So our mission in this deep dive is to pull out the most actionable insights and maybe surprising observations from that specific source material. We want to give you a shortcut, drawing directly from that transcript, to understand how discipline is genuinely built, layer by layer, not just why it's a nice idea. Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay, so when the source transcript talks about the problem, it really zeroes in on that initial high expectation people set, deciding they're going to work out for a solid hour daily or commit to an intense hour of study right off the bat.
The transcript gives the example of someone wanting to exercise more, but constantly getting sidetracked by distractions, like falling back into watching TV instead of doing the planned activity. That sounds familiar.
Right, and the trap, as highlighted in the transcript, is setting the bar so high initially that it just feels overwhelming. You might start strong for a day or two,
Yeah, day one is great.
but when you hit the inevitable hurdle, a busy day, feeling tired, not seeing instant progress, that big goal feels like, well, too much. Burnout sets in pretty quickly.
And that's when the classic procrastination takes over. The transcript perfectly describes this cycle where the exciting goal gets pushed off until tomorrow, which, let's be honest, often never comes.
Exactly. Without that foundation of discipline, those ambitious intentions often just evaporate. Precisely. So how does the source material suggest we break this cycle? One of the first key insights it extracts is the profound power hidden in something incredibly simple, starting tiny.
It feels almost counterintuitive, doesn't it, when you're tackling a big goal? But the transcript really emphasized shrinking the initial commitment dramatically, like really small.
Yes, they explicitly suggest incredibly small increments. The examples given in the source were committing to just 5 minutes of exercise or maybe just 5 minutes of dedicated English practice.
5 minutes.
Yeah, just 5. And the why the source highlights is that big expectations create resistance and, well, lead to burnout. Tiny steps, on the other hand, dramatically reduce the friction of getting started.
The transcript's point is that by making the habit so small, literally just 5 minutes, you make it almost impossible to say no to. I mean, you can always find 5 minutes, right?
You usually can. And the implication the source drew from this is powerful. Consistency, even in these minimal amounts, builds momentum.
Momentum.
Those tiny, repeatable efforts compound over time. The source suggested this approach helps the action become a natural part of your routine, almost without forcing yourself, which is where genuine, long-term progress really comes from.
Okay, so the source emphasizes starting ridiculously small. What else did it highlight as essential for staying on track? Because 5 minutes is great, but you need more structure eventually.
Exactly. The transcripts spent a good amount of time on the idea of building systems, not just focusing on goals. Goals are your destination, sure, but the source makes the case that you need a reliable process, a system to actually get there.
Like the example in the source of someone, say, fixated on a weight loss goal but without a clear plan of daily actions. It's easy to get discouraged when the scale doesn't move quickly, right?
Exactly. The source argues that solely focusing on the outcome can lead to frustration when results aren't immediate. A system, as they describe it, is the specific set of small daily actions that consistently move you in the direction of your goal.
So the examples from the transcript were things like practicing English for 10 minutes every morning or making a point to listen to podcasts during the commute. These aren't just abstract ideas. They're concrete, repeatable steps baked into the day.
And the power of this approach, according to the source, is that these systems become automatic routines. You start relying less on those bursts of motivation, which we know fade,
Right.
and more on simply following the established path. It's the system itself that keeps you on track, making your actions consistent and reducing the need for those willpower battles daily.
It sounds like creating a reliable autopilot for progress. That makes sense. Now, this next point from the source also challenges the idea that discipline has to be, a grind, making habits attractive.
It's a surprising angle, isn't it? The transcript suggests that discipline doesn't inherently mean deprivation or suffering. If you can find a way to make the habit genuinely enjoyable, or at least associate it with positive feelings, you're far more likely to stick with it.
They provided some really specific examples in there, like pairing exercise with listening to your favorite music, or maybe watching a funny TV show while you're stretching, or doing some light activity.
Yeah, or making language practice more appealing by watching an exciting show in the target language. They even discussed using positive reinforcement or rewards right after completing the habit.
Right. The transcript talked about self-bribery, but in a good way, like giving yourself a small treat or allowing yourself a fun activity after you've done the thing.
Yes. The idea is that our brains respond really strongly to rewards. Linking a positive outcome to the desired habit strengthens that connection over time. So yes, the source implies discipline can actually involve strategically planned snacks or screen time.
Who knew? Discipline and snacks.
Okay? It reframes the habit from a chore into something associated with pleasure, which makes it much, much stickier.
Moving on, the source also had some strong points about how much our surroundings matter. Designing your environment for success.
Oh, this one's huge. This insight from the transcript is about recognizing that your physical space isn't neutral in this battle for discipline. It either helps you or it actively works against you.
Yeah, the source mentioned the classic pitfalls. Cluttered desks making it hard to focus, or having tempting snacks sitting right in view when you're trying to work or study. They called these environmental cues basically setups for giving in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If your environment constantly throws temptations in your face or makes the desired action difficult, you're basically swimming upstream the whole time.
Right.
The transcript gave concrete examples. Keeping workout clothes out and visible, maybe by the bed or the door, as a visual cue to exercise. Or removing those tempting snacks from your immediate workspace. Out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
And for learning, the source stressed keeping your study materials visible and easily accessible. If your books or flashcards are tucked away in a drawer, they're much more likely to stay out of mind.
The key takeaway from the source here is pretty simple. Engineer your surroundings to make the desired action the easiest path. Make it easy.
And the undesirable action, like getting distracted or procrastinating, the harder path. And the transcript noted this extends to the people around you too. Surround yourself with support, assuming they aren't the ones tempting you off track with cake or something.
Which, let's be real, happens.
Yeah.
Speaking of resisting temptation, the source also dove into a critical concept, managing your willpower and energy.
This was a great point the transcript made. Willpower isn't this endless resource you can just draw on all day. It's portrayed more like a muscle that gets fatigued the more you use it throughout the day.
Oh, you definitely feel that drain by the evening, right? When resisting the urge to just collapse on the couch feels like a monumental effort.
Right. So the strategic insight from the source was to tackle your most important discipline-requiring tasks, whether it's that study session or your exercise, when your energy and willpower are naturally highest.
Okay.
For many people, that might be earlier in the day, but the key is identifying your personal peak energy time. When are you sharpest? The implication, according to the source, is that you conserve your limited mental energy for the habits that matter most. Don't waste it. The transcript also touched on automating decisions as a way to save willpower, too.
The less you have to decide whether or not to do the habit each time, the less willpower you expend just making the choice.
It's about being smart with your mental resources,
Yeah.
not just trying to brute force your way through fatigue.
Exactly.
And finally, the source transcript really emphasized the power of leveraging accountability. They highlighted how social support can be a huge booster for self-discipline.
It's a simple but incredibly effective mechanism, the source pointed out. Just the act of involving someone else makes you significantly more likely to follow through. It just does.
The examples from the transcript were straightforward. Finding a workout buddy, checking in with a friend about your goals, having a language partner, or joining a study group. Simply sharing your progress publicly or even with just one person adds that layer of external commitment.
Yeah, it does. And the benefit the source highlighted is that this accountability provides a gentle external push precisely when your internal motivation or willpower is dipping. It makes it considerably harder to skip those planned actions when you know someone else is expecting you or, that you'll have to report back. It helps keep you focused.
It builds a support structure that makes ditching the habit much less appealing, less easy to just let it slide.
Absolutely. It really does.
So, drawing from the insights in that English learning transcript, we've really extracted a powerful set of strategies for building self-discipline and actually achieving your goals. The source highlighted starting incredibly tiny to build momentum,
Yeah, the 5-minute rule.
focusing on building consistent systems instead of just fixating on the end result, making the habits attractive by associating them with rewards, maybe even snacks.
The fun part.
Deliberately designing your environment to make desired actions easier and distractions harder, managing your willpower and energy by tackling key tasks when you're at your peak, and leveraging accountability through social support.
These aren't just theoretical concepts. The source transcript provided a very practical, step-by-step perspective on how to implement these ideas. It showed their effectiveness even in a specific domain like language learning. And that just shows how universally applicable they are to your own aspirations, whatever they might be.
They give you concrete ways to build that discipline muscle. It's not just about trying harder. And thinking about what that source material revealed, especially its points about how much your physical space and your energy levels impact your ability to stick to something. Here's something for you to consider after this deep dive. Based only on those ideas from the transcript we discussed, what is just one single tiny change you could make to your physical environment or your daily schedule today?
Just one thing.
That would make the habit you want to build just a little bit easier to do, or maybe the distraction you want to avoid just a little bit harder to give into. What single action stands out to you from what the source had to say?